with the formation of a contract of partnership, there is created a juridical person. Also, corporation. A corporation is an artificial being created by operation of law, having the right of succession and the powers, attributes, and properties expressly authorized by law or incidental to its existence, no? So, kung papansinin niyo under the corporation code, no, a corporation has its powers and capacity. Just like any other person, they have the right to purchase, receive, take, grant, hold, convey, sell, lease, pledge, mortgage, just like any other natural person. And then consent. We're through with legal capacity. The essence of legal capacity is that a person would have the power, no? When a person has legal capacity, then he has the power or authority to act with legal effect. Okay? Then another consideration when it turns to consent, uh, which presupposes meeting of the mind, is that the consent must be freely given. No? You take note of Article 1390. No? It pertains to voidable contracts. The by the voidable contracts, no, it includes those where one of the parties is incapable of giving consent to the contract, where one party has no legal capacity, it gives rise to voidable contracts, or where the consent, or even if there is legal capacity, but the consent is not freely given because of vitiation of consent, because of mistake, because of violence, because of intimidation, undue influence, or fraud. So these instances, it will give rise to voidable contracts. And voidable contracts, no, are binding unless they are annulled by a proper action in court. It means that they are valid until they are annulled by the court. But uh, although they are valid, there are grounds for their annulment. And the grounds for their annulment could be one of the parties has no legal capacity or incapable of giving consent to a contract, or even if there is consent, it is vitiated by mistake, violence, intimidation, undue influence, or fraud. Okay. Um, Article 1330, no? A contract where consent is given through mistake, violence, intimidation, undue influence, or fraud is voidable. You take note also of Article 1332, where one of the parties is unable to read, or if the contract is in a language not understood by him, and mistake or fraud is alleged, the person enforcing the contract must show that the terms thereof have been fully explained, no? Because it presupposes that if the party is not capable to read, no, and and so he is not able to understand the terms and conditions of the contract that he enters into, and and so the the premise is that if a person is not able to understand the terms and conditions of the contracts that he entered into, then he could not really give consent, no, to a contract that he does not understand. And so uh it, there could be no free consent that is to be given in that instance that the party is unable to read, no? Or if the if the contract is in a language not understood by him. Halimbawa, English yung contract, grade 1 yung natapos, walang nag-explain sa kanya, no? It is presumed na in Tagalog lang yung alam niya o kaya Bisaya lang yung alam niya na dialect. And so it could not be presumed that there is a free consent that has been given if that is the case. Mutual error as to the legal effect of an agreement when the real purpose of the parties is frustrated may vitiate consent. Yung sa ignorance of the law excuses no one. Yung ignorance of the law, of course, would not excuse anyone, no? Because it is presumed that parties must know their rights, no? Must know the law that affects them. But in case there is an error as to yung legal effect, no? Akala na what they are entering into would just be, for example, a contract of comodatum. It would just be the delivery of a thing na isasauli din. Kaya lang, yung pala, what they entered into would now be a contract of sale na it's a delivery of a thing for the purpose of transferring ownership. And there is a mutual error, no? Because akala nila it's just pahiram lang. Yun pala, it's already a perfected absolute sale. And so magkaiba yung legal effect ng dalawang kontratang yon. And the real purpose of the parties would be frustrated. And that could be a basis for the vitiation of consent. Another ground for vitiation of consent would be violence. No? When there is a wrestling of yung consent or when irresistible force is employed or intimidation. Usually napapanood nyo to yung sa mga TV, no? Na yung mga tinututukan ng baril o kaya yung mga tinotorture para lang magpapirma ng documents, no? There is a vitiation of consent in those cases. There is intimidation when one of the contracting parties is compelled by reasonable and well-grounded fear, no? Pinagbantaan na papatayin yung anak or pinagbantaan na papatayin siya, yun. And grave evil upon his person or property, that is intimidation. So in case there is intimidation, the contract would be voidable. Also, when to determine the degree of intimidation, the age, sex, and condition shall be borne in mind. No? Like, for example, kung yung trinete na papatayin yung kanyang anak na babae ay si Duterte, no? As compared kung yung si Mang Pedro diyan sa kanto, magkaiba yung effect, no? Magkaiba yung effect because pag ang inintimidate mo ay si Duterte, syempre hindi yun ma-intimidate, no? As compared kung yung maglalako ng taho, inintimidate na susunugin ang bahay, no? It would really give yung sa kanyang mental state, yung kanyang mindset na baka pwedeng mangyari. And so it would cause yung intimidation for him to give way doon sa whatever is required of him. And that could be a form of intimidation. Pero kung halimbawa si si Duterte yung tinakot mong gano'n, eh, hindi, it could not be an intimidation o kaya si mayor tinakot mo ng gano'n, it could not be an intimidation because yung sa condition ng person, ah, yung sa mental faculty niya ay it could not be presumed na pupuwede siyang ma-intimidate lang siya ng gano'n. However, if yung threat is with respect, yung pagbabanta is with respect na magfa-file ng kaso sa korte, yung mga gano'n. If meron namang ground really for the filing of of a case, it is not considered an intimidation or the threat would not be considered a vitiation of consent. So, kung halimbawa kapag hindi ka nagbayad ay fa-file-an na kita ng kaso sa korte. Although there is a threat 'no, but if that threat has a basis like the enforcement of a right or a claim through competent authority, then it does not vitiate consent 'no. Violence or intimidation, even if a third person 'no, siya yung nag-execute nun, still, that would be considered, uh, as an intimidation, which is a ground for annulment of the contract. There is undue influence when a person takes improper advantage of his power over the will of another. It presupposes dito na yung isang tao 'no, he has a moral ascendancy over the other or yung isa mas superior yung kanyang position over the other and so they would not be in equal footing. And it could not be said na if two persons are not in equal footing because the other one, he is in a financial distress or merong mental weakness and meron siyang utang na tinatanaw na utang na loob with the other party. And so, it could not be presumed na yung consent is freely given, but only because of an undue influence that has been pressed upon him. Fraud ay panluloko, no? This is with the use of insidious words, machinations of contracting parties, no? Which induces another to enter into a contract. Yung understanding natin dito ay kung yung panluloko, yun yung rason na nag-enter into a contract yung isang party, then through yung gamit ng mga false claims 'no, insidious words or dun sa pagmamanipula sa ibang party, then that is fraud 'no. Also, the failure to disclose facts when there is duty to reveal them, it also constitute fraud. So ang essence ng fraud ay yung any form ng panloloko 'no, any form of estafa with the use of misrepresentation, insidious words, where the party has been made to believe and on that basis entered into a contract. In such case, there is a vitiation of consent. User exaggerations in trade kasi usually 'di ba sa marketing, they exaggerate everything. If there is an opportunity to know the facts, ibig sabihin 'pag merong ibinebenta at sinasabing lahat ng maganda hinggil dun sa object 'no. But if you have the opportunity to examine the goods, they are not in themselves fraudulent 'no. o kaya an expression of opinion, um, unless made by an expert. So kung halimbawa sinabi ng isa na, "Oh, tunay na diamond yan, napakaganda yan, sobrang mamahalin yan," 'no? Pero hindi naman siya expert talaga sa mga gemstones. And so it would just be sales talk lang siya, and it would just be an exaggeration in trade and a mere expression of opinion. Pero kung yung alahera, graduate ng gemology ang nagsabing it's a real diamond pero it turned out to be napuwet ng baso, 'no, then there is a fraud, 'no? And a fraud that would vitiate consent must be serious, and it should not have been employed by both contracting parties. Yan. We have discussed Article 1332 and Article 1334. You take note of also unenforceable contracts, no? Ito yung kasama dun sa discussion natin on defective contracts, where both parties are incapable of giving consent to a contract, it will give rise to an enforceable contract. Hindi mo siya pwedeng i- i-enforce sa court, no? For its fulfillment. Consent is manifested by the meeting of the offer and the acceptance upon the thing and the cause which constitute a contract. The offer must be certain and the acceptance absolute. Ibig sabihin, again, as I was trying to emphasize, for there to be a meeting of the mind, there must be a mutual agreement with respect to the object and to the consideration. And so there is only a meeting of the mind when there is an absolute acceptance of the object and of the consideration or the cause of the contract. Yan. Acceptance, it may be expressed. So just to emphasize, like for in a contract of sale, there is an acceptance, no? When there is already, when the party obligates himself to transfer the ownership of and to deliver a determinate thing and the other to pay thereof a price certain in money or its equivalent, no? There is already certainty as to the object of the sale, which must be a determinate thing, no? The delivery of the determinate thing and the payment of a price certain in money. And so there is a meeting of the mind, no? As katulad ng what I have emphasized from the beginning, when it pertains to the mutual assent as to the object of the contract and upon the price or consideration. And acceptance may be expressed or implied. When the offerer has allowed a certain period to accept, the offer may be withdrawn at any time before the acceptance by communicating such withdrawal, no? You take note of the difference between a mere offer and option contract as well as option money versus earnest money. You take note of the definition of option contract. But as we have discussed, option contract is a preparatory contract, no? Giving a person a consideration a certain period of time. Option period is a period given within which the offeree must decide whether to enter into a principal contract. Ito yung bago before persons enter into a contract of sale, it could be na they enter muna na, halimbawa, one person, sabi niya, pare, bilhin mo tong sasakyan ko for 1,000,000 Toyota Fortuner, um, 1,000,000 with plate number SMMC 1234. Sasabihin ng isa, sige pag-isipin ko muna. Sabi ng isa, sige bigyan kita ng 1 week na for you to whether to accept or not. Tapos sasabihin ng isa naman, o sige pare, eto yung 10,000 pesos, eto yung consideration ng dun sa option contract. Ito yung consideration para bigyan mo ako ng 1 week to decide whether to purchase or not. And so what happens is it's not a contract of sale, but it is an option contract giving the person a period within which to accept yung offer. And if na perfect yung kapag na-accept yung offer, it will now give rise to an absolute contract of sale. Otherwise, then hindi matutuloy yung sale. No? You will learn more of this when you have yung regulatory framework. We discuss about contract of sale. So that is an option contract. No? Option money, it's a consideration for an option contract. You have to understand na it's different from earnest money. Kasi yung earnest money, in essence, it's yung down payment or partial payment. Yung option contract, it's a payment for, or it's a consideration for the option contract. Yung option money pala, it's a consideration for option contract that is distinct from a contract of sale, for example, or distinct from the consideration from a contract of sale. Yun. You take note of mere offer versus option contract. Yung option contract, it's a perfected contract in itself. Yung mere offer, it's just an offer. Wala pang perfected contract, no? It could be withdrawn anytime. Pero yung sa option contract, since it is a perfected contract in itself, then it could not be withdrawn anytime. No. Also, you take note of the promise to buy and sell. You will learn more of this yung sinabi ko nga pag nasa contract of sale na yung topic. A promise to buy and sell, I just want you to take note, no? It's a promise to buy and sell a determinate thing. What I'm trying to point out is I'm just trying to want you to understand yung differentiation ng perfected contract as to yung sa mga option contract, and even ito, it's a promise to buy and to sell, no? It is supported by a consideration just like an option contract, then it would be binding, no? But its consideration is distinct from the price in a contract of sale. Contract to sell, no? You take note of the definition. There is a reservation as to the ownership, no? This is again a preparatory contract to a contract of sale. Yan. Business advertisements are not definite offers but mere invitations, no? Advertisement for bidders, just simply invitations to make proposals. And so the essence of consent is the conformity of the parties and the terms of the contract, the acceptance by one of the offer made by the other. So merong consent if there is a conformity, no, as to the terms of the contract, no, and the acceptance of the offer made by the party. There is a conformity with respect to the specific object, which is the subject matter of the contract, and also of the consideration that will support the contract or that will give rise to the contract.